Hey, well, it's been an awesome morning so far. I don't know if you can tell, but I really, really, really love coming to church, all right? I love showing up to church. I love waking up on a Sunday morning just knowing that I get to come, hang out with you guys, get to meet new people every single week. I hope that you don't take it for granted that we have new faces here every single week. That's not something that's normal for most churches and the experience that I've had in my life. So I just appreciate our church. I love where our church is, and I love where our church is going. As I was preparing for this message this week, I had on my mind and on my heart just the things that we have coming up, and we've mentioned some of these over the last few weeks, and Jenny just mentioned some also. Next week, we have a team that's going to the coast to serve folks down there that are in, just a big time need on a disaster relief trip, a team that we have going down there. Can we just celebrate the fact that we are a church that gives opportunities to share hope with folks that need it? And I just can't imagine just continuously still what they're going through. And inside of this month, whether you're ready for it or not, Halloween is coming, all right? So we have Halloween Bash coming up this month as well. And just an awesome opportunity for us as a church to have literally thousands of people come through our property and to interact with us as a church. If you call Hope Church home and you're showing up at that event, we get to interact with folks from our community and really just be an outreach event for us to be able to show up, to introduce ourselves to the community, to say, hey, this is what we are, this is who we are, this is what we're about. Let me ask you, who has been to the Halloween Bash? Was it not awesome? Can we clap for Halloween Bash too? Come on, let's get it. And then, so if this is your first Sunday, or maybe you haven't been here in a while, and if not those things, you've probably been under a rock if you didn't know that we're opening up a second campus in Mebane in the fall of next year. Let's give a little love to the Mebane campus expansion. Man, we're so thrilled, so excited. As I think about Mebane and everything that Mebane brings, everybody that I've talked to that has heard about this step of faith that our church is taking, man, they're just so excited. And the thing that we can all really get excited about and really get on board with is the fact that there are so many people in Mebane. There are so many people in Mebane. Maybe you know some, and you could name them by name this morning, that they need a place like this. They need some hope. They need what we have. What the hope that we carry. They need that. They just need a church that is going to be in the community, that's going to be a part of the community, not just a church inside of the community, but actually be the community and be there in Mebane, and just to completely surround ourselves with everything Mebane and really just live out Hope Church right there in Mebane. I'm really, really excited about that. I'm really excited about just the things that we have going on inside of our church, and I hope that you guys are too. It's really, really, really a fun time, man, to be right here at Hope Church. And as I was thinking about the things that we have coming up, the things that I listed, and honestly many, many others, there was really one word that stuck out to me this week, and I want to share this word with you. And if you're taking notes, I'd love for you to actually write it down. It's going to be on our screen right here. It's the word compassion. All right, so as you're taking those down, we have note cards that are in your seat where you can take notes and stuff. I'd love for you to do that. I'm a big note taker. It helps me stay on track and helps me keep up with messages Monday through Saturday as well. I can look back on my notes and do different things. So if you're taking notes, I'd love for you to just write that at the top really big. As you're doing that, could you just say the word compassion with me, though, on the count of three? Let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Compassion. Man, doesn't it just feel good to say the word compassion? Doesn't it? Does it make you feel like you've done something already just a little bit? That was just me. All right, that's fine. That's cool. When I say the word compassion, it's just it's a fun word to say. It makes you feel good, the word compassion. But as we're talking about compassion, I want to, just to make sure that we're all tracking here, I want to ask you guys a question. I've experienced this. I want to see if you've experienced this as well. How many of you ever been in a restaurant, okay? Maybe it's a nicer restaurant. You're sitting down, you're having a meal. You've got, a plate of your favorite food right there in front of you. You're tasting the food. You're eating the food. The food's so good. You're really eating the food. You're really enjoying the food. You're enjoying the company that you're with, right? Maybe you're there with a spouse, your husband or a wife. Maybe you're on a date, okay? You've got a boyfriend, girlfriend you're having some dinner with. Maybe you're just with a group of friends, whatever the case may be. You're really enjoying everything. You're having a great time in this restaurant. And then all of a sudden, a baby starts crying, okay? Baby start, and I'm not talking about a little cry. I'm talking about losing their minds crying. I mean, just like pitching a fit, going nuts, going absolutely insane, crying as loud as they can, and you're like, look, we got to change. Something's got to happen. I'm trying to have my dinner, okay? I'm trying to have my dinner right now. So something like we got to change this. All right, now let me let you in on something. So I have an 8-month-old at home, okay? An 8-month-old little girl. What do you think my response would be before having my child? Let me tell you what my response would be. If I'm in a restaurant, I'm having a nice meal, baby starts crying, and I haven't had a child yet, let me tell you what my reaction would be. It's something like this. You best get your child under control. All right. Obviously, you parents, you need to read some more books, okay? Because what you got going on at home, your parenting style, like something's going wrong because you obviously don't have control of your kid. All right. You need to get control of your kid, right? You need to like do some more things. Like as a parent, like obviously your child, like you need some help. All right. And let me tell you another thing. When I have my kid, let me tell you what it's not going to do. It's not going to scream and yell. And it's going to say please and thank you every time she wants something, all right? That's how, because I'm going to be a great parent. And I don't even need to read the books, all right? That's just how it's going to be because I'm going to parent well. Is that reality? For anybody? No, it's not reality, right? Like, no, that's not how it's been. But that was my reaction. Now, let me ask you this. Was there an ounce of compassion in that response? No, right? Yeah. No compassion in that response. Let me tell you this. So after having a child, all right, so I'm at dinner with my wife, maybe our little girl's being so sweet next to us. We're having dinner in this restaurant, and a baby from across the room starts to scream and yell. This is how we react now. That poor baby. She probably dropped her passy on the floor. And if she just had her passy, they just put the passy in her mouth. All those poor parents, like they got it. Because I feel you. I've been there before. Like I know what it feels like. We're on the same team. I've been there. And I lean over to my wife and I'm like, baby, I wonder if they know about that like organic keto-friendly teething ring yet. Like that just came out. Do you think that they have one of those? Maybe we should give them ours and they could try that out and that would help. Do you think they've heard of essential oils? Do you think that do you know what a drop of lavender can do to a child? I mean, look, it is something special, okay? Like my heart goes out to these parents, right? Like, and for me, like when I'm dumping lavender on my kid, like whatever it takes to get my kid to calm down, right? Now, let me ask you this. Is there any compassion in that scenario? Is there? Yes, maybe some no. All right. Let me take it one more level deeper, okay? At home, my own child, all right? Parents, follow me, all right? You're at home, maybe it's a Sunday, sitting on the couch watching a little TV, watching a little football, all right? And then all of a sudden, your own child, I got an 8-month-old just losing her mind on the floor. I mean, just crying. Let me tell you what I don't do. I don't leave my tail on the couch, right? I don't stay there and think, man, where is my wife at? Like, why can't I get some help around here? Why don't she come feed her child? Like, what is wrong with her? She needs to get up and get her things together and, like, get her what she needs. That's not what I do, right? That's not what I would do. Let me tell you, so when I'm sitting on the couch doing my own comfy thing, having a relaxing time to myself, I will choose to inconvenience myself for my child, right? So when my child needs something, I'm going to jump up off the couch. I'm going to swoop that child up, all right? Now, listen, this is a daytime scenario, okay? This is not a 3 a.m. scenario, okay? So just make this clear. So I'm going to swoop her up. I'm going to care for her, right? I'm going to be so sweet to her. I'm going to talk so nice to her. I'm going to encourage her. I'm going to give her some words of affirmation, right? I'm going to give her everything that she needs. I'm going to feed her. I'm going to go into the kitchen. We're going to warm up a bottle for her, right? Maybe get a little food cooking, right? Do a little something, make some green beans for her, right? Whatever it takes, that's what I'm going to do for my child. That's what I'm going to do for my child. And let me tell you a very specific difference between all those scenarios. The last scenario, what did it have that the other two lacked? Action. Action was lacking. I'm going to give you guys a definition this morning as we're diving into this compassion. This is the definition that we're going to work with this morning. It says this: Jesus' heart plus action, keyword action, equals compassion. All right? So if you're taking notes, I'd love for you to write that down. Write that down on your note card right there. Jesus' heart plus action equals compassion. And this is why I want to really hang out here for this morning. If you were to leave this place this morning, and you were to open up a dictionary, okay? Y'all have dictionaries in your home? You got Google. You don't need those, all right? You just type in, dictionary in your phone, right? And you pull up the word compassion, all right? This is what it's going to give you. It's going to give you basically that compassion is synonymous with pity. But I would advocate that if you read the Bible and you look at the ways that Jesus showed compassion to other people, that compassion is not really a feeling that we have, like a feeling of pity. It's not a feeling that we have that can come and go. Compassion is a way of life, and it's full of action. It's full of action, and it really starts with the heart of Jesus when he sees the need in people, when he sees the need for hope within people, when he sees the need to draw people in closer to him, and he chooses to take action steps to make that happen. That's when we see compassion really happen inside the Bible. So as we're thinking of the word compassion here this morning, I really want us to be hanging very, very close to this word action, because there really is no compassion without action. There's no compassion without action. But let me tell you this, I don't want to kid ourselves here this morning. Compassion and showing compassion to other people and taking actions towards compassion, it can be really, really difficult sometimes. Is that right? I mean, it can be really, really difficult sometimes to choose to show compassion towards other people. I want to give you an example. So how many of you have ever found yourself in a scenario, all right? So you're pulling out of Starbucks, right? You got your pumpkin spice latte because it's the first week in October, and you got to make sure that you get that in before they run out of the pumpkin spice. You know what I mean? Like you got that, all right? So then you get onto the road, and up cresting the hill, you can see that there's a man on the side of the road right there, and he's hitchhiking, right? You've been here before? That you drive down the road, you see and all of a sudden you find yourself in a conversation right up in here, and it becomes a mental game. There's just it's a me, myself, and you and I conversation right here, like in your brain, and you're thinking, man, I should probably pick him up. Like that's what you're thinking. I feel compelled to pick this man up off the side of the road, and you're like, I think I'm going to do it. I really think this time, I think I'm going to pick this man up off the side of the road, because he looks kind of skinny. You know, he needs some help, right? I mean, you can just tell that he's been on the road for a while, right? He needs some help. He needs somebody to really step in and take action. I'm feeling compelled to do it. I'm going to do it. But what if he's like a psycho, axe, murderer, killer person? Not this time. And then what do? You whip it around, and you take the long way home. Like, have you ever been there before? I've been there before, right? It's a hard thing. Let me tell you this, and I really want you to be thinking about this week. The number one thing that most of the time that gets in the way of us showing compassion is this word right here, and it's the word fear. Fear. Oftentimes, more often than not, fear is the thing that gets in the way of us showing compassion. Fear gets in the way of us showing compassion. I want to look in the Bible this morning, because Jesus is the perfect example of compassion for us. And as we spend some time in John 8, I'd love for you guys to go ahead and start turning there in John 8. We're going to be looking at verses 2 through 11 here this morning. I want to remind you that if you don't have a Bible with you here this morning, or you don't have one at home, man, we would love to be able to put a Bible in your hand this morning. We actually give those out in the lobby every single week. So if you need a Bible this morning after the service, head to Next Steps. They'll give you one just for needing one. It's really good that we do that. I love that we do that. So if we're all here in John chapter 8, I want to go ahead and read these verses to you. Let's start in verse 2. It's going to be up on the screens here for you if you don't have it in hand. It says this: at dawn he appeared again in the temple courts. He being Jesus, all right? So Jesus appeared in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him. And he sat down to teach them. So I want to press pause, all right, for those note takers in the room, okay? Here's my translation, okay? So Jesus has showed up to church early, all right? Some of y'all might need to write that down, okay? You can write that down if you want to. Showed up to church early. Good stuff, all right? He showed up at dawn, where all the people got. He brought a whole crowd of people with him to church. Y'all can write that down. Bring crowd of people to church. You can write that down if you want to, okay? Lastly, he sat down to teach them. He led a small group. Man, for some of y'all need to write that down. Jesus led a small group. I might need to lead a small group. Some of y'all are like, okay, I'm tracking. I might could show up a little early. I could lead a small group. I could bring some folks to church. Jesus is a perfect example for all those things. I kind of kid on that, but not really. You understand. All right. Let's go to the next verse. This is verse 3. This is where it gets good. It says, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using these questions as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. To have a basis for accusing him. Now I want to pause right there, because if you grew up in church, or if you read the Bible, or if you go to church often, many times, many times, whenever we hear the word Pharisee in a story, a lot of times we'll equate Pharisee with just the bad guy, right? I mean, it's just the bad guy. I mean, they're always trying to get in Jesus' way, right? Anytime Jesus is trying to love somebody, the Pharisees are like, whoa, what are you doing? That's kind of scary, right? And anytime that Jesus is trying to show up to maybe a sinner's home to spend time with them, someone that's far from God, Jesus is spending time with this person. The Pharisees are thinking, oh, I don't know about that. You probably shouldn't do that. That's not the way we do things around here. Oftentimes they're portrayed as the bad guy, but I want to put us in their shoes here this morning, and I want to kind of paint the picture, the context of what's going on. So in the morning, instead of choosing to spend time with Jesus, instead of spending time with Jesus, the Pharisees choose to spend time seeking out an adulterous woman. So instead of opting in for time with Jesus, they're opting in to seek someone that they can then bring to Jesus to shame in front of Jesus. You might say, well, that sounds pretty bad to me. Like, yeah, that seems like a bad guy, right? Well, yeah, maybe, but let me paint it to you this way. The same people, those same folks that gathered at Jesus' feet that morning, that same crowd, that same buzz, that same energy, that was the same crowd that used to be at the feet of the Pharisees. See, the Pharisees were the teachers of the law, so they had influence, they had power, they had authority. In the culture in which they lived, they had the authority of the law. And then all of a sudden you see Jesus step into the scene, and Jesus is like, he's teaching on grace. He's teaching on love. And what it's doing is challenging the comfort that the Pharisees are living inside of. It's challenging their status quo. It's challenging what they know. And all of a sudden, the crowds are leaving them, and they're finding their way to Jesus. And all of a sudden, the influence and the power and the authority and everything that they have built their life around, that foundation is starting to crack. So in this moment, you can see the Pharisees they're afraid of Jesus. They're afraid of Jesus. They're afraid of who Jesus is. They're afraid of what he's doing. They're afraid of the challenges that he's bringing. They're afraid of his teaching, because they know that there's a change in the air. There's a change in the air, and something is happening, and this idea of what they used to know is starting to change, and it's going to look different. And instead of choosing compassion towards the woman that was caught in adultery, they choose shame. They come to her in a self-righteous manner, and they say, look, we know what you've done. We're gonna cast you out into the crowd, and we're going to demand that you be stoned to death. This is where fear leads us. Fear does not lead us toward compassion. It leads us to condemnation. And this is exactly where the Pharisees have found themselves inside of. I want to ask you this question, and this is like a Monday through Saturday question, okay? I want you to write it down, but if you don't bring it back up inside your mind in the next few days, then you've lost it, okay? So I want you to write this down. Have I ever chosen fear over compassion? Have I ever chosen fear over compassion? Have you ever chosen fear over compassion? I need you to write that down. I need you to think about that. I need you to ponder about that, and then I need you to take some steps towards it. Have you ever chosen fear over compassion? Let me tell you this, in the same way that the Pharisees would look at Jesus and say, I'm a little intimidated here. He's changing the game. The rules have been changed. I don't know. I'm scared. I'm scared of what's happening because my foundation is beginning to crack. It's changing. There are things that are looking different. Jesus is kind of changing the rules of the game right in front of their eyes. In the same way that they show fear towards Jesus, we also show fear towards Jesus. Because listen, I love the series that we've been in, A Friend of Sinners. Oftentimes, for those who are followers of Jesus in the room, we're supposed to be a friend of sinners, but also oftentimes we are afraid of sinners. We're not a friend of sinners, we're afraid of sinners because we know what it's going to cost. For the same reason that the Pharisees feared Jesus because of everything that he was teaching on, we also know that if we follow the model of Jesus, then that means relationally we've got to really stick our necks out for folks. Because we know that the model that Jesus gave for compassion isn't just sitting on the couch in the safe zone in comfort, fully in comfort. That's not what it looks like through the eyes of Jesus. Jesus says, no, I need you to see people through my eyes with my heart and know that they are more than their sin, and I need you to do something about it. So what you're telling me is that I got to talk to people about Jesus. I got to maybe in a moment where I could show compassion towards somebody by sharing my faith journey with someone. Listen, compassion is really cool when you're receiving compassion, isn't it? When somebody's showing you compassion, it's like, man, compassion's awesome. But when it's time for you to show someone compassion, it gets a little scary. It gets a little scary. Because what it requires of us is an investment into people. It requires an investment. Compassion requires an investment of ourselves into someone else. And it could look very, very simple just in the time that you spend with folks. How many of you, because I know that I've done this, you'd say, man, I'm afraid I just don't have time in my schedule for you, man. Like, I know that you want to get together. I know you're going through some things, man. It would be awesome. Like, if only I had time in my schedule for us to get together, man. I know that it would be beneficial. I just don't have time. I know that you're going through some things. I know that you need some hope. I know that you need some direction in your life spiritually. I know that you need those things, but man, I'm afraid I just don't have time. Can we be honest to say that it's not that we lack time, it's just that we're lacking the priority. I mean, right? It's not that we're lacking time, it's that we're fearing what our lives would look like if we actually opened up our calendar to folks that needed us. The opportunities that Jesus pours into our lives every single day for us to pour into other people around us, to pour into co-workers, to pour into family, to friends. What would your life look like if you opened your calendar and you began calendaring, scheduling out time specifically for other people? Listen, for people that needed hope, need hope that you carry and have nothing, absolutely, they have nothing to give you in return for that. That's a scary life. Can we be honest? That is a scary life. There's a lot of fear that's wrapped up in that idea of how far do I go? Man, if I give you money to eat today, does that mean that I have to have a conversation with you? If I see you and I see your need and I choose to take action, does that mean that I need to follow up with you? I don't know that I see myself as valuable enough to do that. There's insecurity inside of me that's born out of fear. I don't know exactly what to do with that. Listen, Jesus gives us opportunities day in and day out to show compassion towards other people. And I believe one of the first decisions that we can make here this morning is realizing that fear can be the biggest roadblock to seeing those things not happen. Let's continue in our scripture here this morning. This is continuing in verse 6, and this is where it really gets good. It says, "But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. And when they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, 'Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her.' Let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Can we for a moment just put ourselves in the position, in the shoes of the woman that's standing there? I mean, honestly, can you imagine the shame, the guilt, the fear in that moment? An early morning being basically abducted by men that have power, that have influence inside of your culture. They have taken you from where you were staying, and they have thrusted you into a crowd of people. They thrusted you into a crowd of people, maybe some strangers, but then maybe other familiar faces. And they have not only put you on an island out in front of everyone, they've demanded that you be stoned to death. Could you imagine the fear that this woman is feeling right now? And undoubtedly knowing that she stood there in front of everyone else. She's feeling as if everyone else is looking at her and only seeing her sin. Because look, as we dive into Scripture this morning, we're not even given a name. We're given a title. So you can only assume that that's the weight that she feels. She feels the weight of her sin. She feels the weight of that sin defining who she is, of defining her worth and defining her value. I mean, all of these things accumulating on top of her shoulders in this moment. But I love what Jesus has done in this moment. He's leveled the playing ground, right? I mean, this is what he does. He's bringing to light the fact that everyone here in the crowd is a sinner. Everyone in the crowd is a sinner. And he sees her far, far more than what her past sin has been, and sees her for who she is. And the really cool part about this story is if you know anything about Jesus, he's perfect. Jesus is sinless. He lived a sinless life here on earth. So when he says, let those who have not sinned throw the first stone, he's the only one present that has the authority to throw the stone. You understand that? He's the only one that has the authority. He's the only one that's capable of throwing a stone at her. And what does he choose to do? What does he choose to do? He chooses to withhold his stone and to show compassion towards her. And in this moment, what he's communicating to everybody around is that, look, this woman has value. I love her. I'm extending grace to her in this moment. Y'all, this is what true compassion looks like. This is what compassion looks like. It's Jesus' heart plus an action. It's not just thinking about doing something, but it's actually taking the steps necessary to actually make this happen. I can't help but think that some of you in the room this morning can identify with this woman. Maybe you've been in life and maybe you've committed past sins that you haven't been able to gain freedom from by handing over to Jesus. Maybe you've been on the other side of sin and you've realized that through a relationship with Jesus, through receiving compassion from Him, you've experienced freedom in the way that this woman will this morning. I want to continue in our story. This is verse 9 as we continue. It says this, "At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left. With the woman still standing there, Jesus straightened up and asked her, 'Woman, where are they? Where are your accusers? Where are your condemners? Where are they? Has no one condemned you?' Verse 11, she says, 'No one, no one, no one.' And Jesus responds, 'Then neither do I. Neither do I.' Jesus declares, 'Go now and leave your life of sin.'" Some of you here this morning, you need to hear those words. You need to hear those words, and you not only need to hear them, but you need to receive them. Jesus is not here to condemn you. Whatever you brought into this place this morning, whatever sin that's got you strapped down, whatever sin has got you strapped down this morning, I need you to know, Jesus does not condemn you. He chooses to have compassion over you if you accept the compassion. If you accept that act of compassion that Jesus showed this woman, it is also available to you here this morning. You know, yesterday I was driving down the road with my wife, and I got a phone call from a friend, and we hadn't been connected in a long time, but just recently been reconnected. So when I got the phone call, the number came through as unrecognized. I didn't have the number programmed in my phone. So I was a little hesitant to answer the call, Didn't want to deal with a telemarketer. I answered the phone, and immediately I know who it is because, we had just reconnected. So my friend answers the phone, and he says, in a very timid way, he says, "Alex, can you hear me?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I can hear you. What's up? How you doing? Is everything okay? Like, everything going okay? Everything good?" He says, "Man, I need you to pray for me. I need you to pray for me." And immediately I could hear the emotion inside of his voice. I'm like, "Yeah, man, what can I pray for you for? Is there something wrong? Is there anything that I can do for you?" And he said, "No, there's nothing you can do for me. I just need you to pray for me this morning, this Saturday morning. I've been on a phone call with another friend of mine. We've been talking on the phone for like 45 minutes this morning. And Alex, this guy's just really going through it. Look, he just needs some hope, man. He's far from God, but Alex, he's being drawn in. I can feel it. I know that he's being drawn in. I know that he's feeling the love of Jesus. I know that he is. He's just on the verge, and I just feel like that if I went to his house and had a conversation with him and prayed with him, that maybe that would help him. That would give him the encouragement that he needed. I just needed you to pray for me this morning." I said, "Yeah, man, absolutely. I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. That sounds awesome. That sounds great." We hung up the phone, and immediately I turned to my wife. I said, "You know of anybody that would, on a whim, give up all of their Saturday plans to have a 45 conversation with somebody about their struggles?" And she looked at me and was like, No. So do you know of anybody that would not only have a 45-minute conversation on the phone with somebody about stuff that they're going through, but then on the back end of the conversation would hang up the phone, stop everything, and drive to someone else's house to have a conversation, to pray with somebody else? Do you know of anybody that would do that on a Saturday? Would I do that on a Saturday? I don't know. I bring that up to say that is the perfect example of compassion. That is compassion. My friend, knowing that his friend needed Jesus, knowing that he lived a life, he was living a life that was far from God, and knowing that Jesus wanted more for his life, dropped everything on a whim and took action. First seeing his friend through Jesus' eyes, meeting his friend with Jesus' heart, and meeting Jesus' heart with action and showing compassion on his friend. I want to share this one last little bit with you guys, and it says this: compassion brings freedom. Compassion brings freedom, while condemnation breeds fear. Listen, I know that there may be some in the room that you just need to feel a little freedom this morning. You need to feel some freedom. You need to feel the compassion that Jesus wants to show you. He wants to show you his heart. He wants to meet where you are. He wants to take action in your life. That's what he does. And you need to feel the freedom that he has to offer. Others of you, you've been living in the world of condemnation for far too long. And this idea of fear is all too familiar for you because you've lived there for so long. You've been stunned by fear. And you've felt that for maybe years. And we're going to give you guys a little bit of time here in just a moment. We're going to have Bryant come out and sing a song for us. He's going to lead us in a song. And I just want it to be a momentary reflection time for everybody in the room. If a relationship with Jesus is something that you could say this morning that you need to step into, then we've got a prayer corner that we would love for you to visit after our service, and you can have someone pray with you there. Maybe others in the room would say, "Look, I've got this person in my head. I just know that I need to take action in their life. I know that Jesus has compelled me. He's prompted me to do something in this person's life. I need to leave here today and make that happen." Whatever it is for you, whatever your next step is here this morning, I want you to take the next few minutes and spend some time opening up your heart to Jesus and asking him to invade, to take over. and allow space in your life that you can be a vehicle for his compassion to other people. Let me pray for us. God, this morning we want to hand this all to you. God, we trust you with these things. God, the compassion that we felt from you, God, cannot go unnoticed, and it demands that we show it to other people. And God, we know that that requires action. We know that it requires an investment from us into other people, God, that are far from you. God, we know that that's not clean. It can get dirty. And God, that's where our insecurities and fear often lie. God, we pray that you in this moment would give us the boldness that it would take, God, to step into a relationship of compassion with you for the first time. Or Lord, give us the boldness that would take to show that compassion towards that person that, God, you've been calling us to for a long time, for far too long. God, we hand these things over to you in this moment. I pray this in your name. Amen.